All right, everybody, welcome to the very first Bridge the Gap podcast episode. I'm Lauren,
And I'm Scott.
and today we're just going to kind of give an introduction to who we are as individuals and what our basic beliefs are, and ultimately our goal for the future of the podcast. So,
Yes. And we probably should start with the fact that you're my daughter and
yes,
I'm your dad.
yes, which is the main point of the podcast. So we can start there. The whole reason that my dad and I are doing this podcast is because we feel like there are a lot of generational gaps between beliefs and pop culture and all kinds of things that a lot of people really struggle talking to their parents about. So the ultimate goal with this is to provide two different perspectives and hopefully help people out understanding either their parents' point of view or having adults, if they listen, understand their child's point of view a little more, which is why it's called Bridge the Gap. We're trying to bridge the gap between those generations that may not always see eye to eye, but hopefully with this can provide a little bit of insight.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is everyone will get to know that we are very type A personalities.
We are.
We have strong personalities, very strong opinions. We don't always agree on those opinions, so it's going to be a challenge for us as well to temper our beliefs even with each other and listen and learn and hopefully bridge the gap between a father and a daughter as well as a Gen X and whatever the heck you are.
Gen Z, you know, the
Gen Z,
superior
yeah,
one.
That one. Yeah. So, and no topics should be off limits, I don't think. I think we'll be talking about a little bit of everything. We'll always use this time to catch up with one another, but then also talk about some current events. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's politics, maybe it's weather, maybe it's her little brother, maybe it's her mom, maybe it's our family, maybe it's each other. Who knows? I mean, everything will be on the table for us to talk about, and hopefully people will find value in it and be entertained.
And another thing is I hope people do understand that families are difficult, life is difficult, opinions are difficult, and it is possible to have a civilized conversation even if you do disagree. Because like you and I have discussed even prior to the podcast is nowadays the issue is everyone's so polarized in their opinions that they can't have the civilized talk of, okay, I respect your feelings, but hear me out too. And then just respect one another as human beings. So that's another thing is, again, like my dad said, we're not always going to agree, but we have the respect to hear each other out and understand where the other's coming from, or at least attempt to.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing is, I hope, is that you, being my daughter, learn a little bit more about your dad, and then others can relate, because no matter what is going on, most of us that are parents that are involved with their child's lives have been through what they're going through. So, but we don't always share that, right? Like we just kind of help try and guide it instead of trying to relate to it. And, you know, I went out to dinner with your grandparents the other night and we were talking about you, and I was like, I had to stop myself a second and remember what I was like at 20 and 21, right? Like, holy shit, was it a time, right? And so,
Right.
and most parents don't share that stuff with their kids, right? Like most parents wouldn't tell you some of the stuff that they did when they were 20, 21. I haven't told you everything that I've done at 20 and 21. Maybe this is the avenue that I do that and you learn a little bit more about your dad. But you better still respect me as your dad when you hear some of these stories.
I feel a little terrified, actually. Well, and that's another thing, too, is not only talking about, like, putting yourself in each other's shoes, it's the difference. So even when you were 20, we have shared experiences, but you also didn't have technology and social media like my generation does. So,
No,
you know, when I
thank
talk about the
God.
difficulties of dating and you're like, oh, just go talk to people. I'm like, Dad, no, like that's not how this works anymore. Men don't come up to girls at the bar anymore. It's like everyone just looks. I will see a man across the bar and be like, that man's cute, and never say a word. Because
It's so crazy. Yeah. Like that's the gaps that will help each other bridge. Right. So I think
Yeah.
the good thing for everyone to know is I'm 50, right? I hit 50 this year. Had you when I was 29, 30, about 29, 29.
Which is so crazy for me to hear too, because that like I'm in that decade. So like I'm
Yeah,
20, turning
right,
21 in September. So I'm in that decade of time. And it's so weird to kind of like think about that.
right.
Like you go on a date and a guy's like, "Oh, so what's your view for, your future? What do you see in marriage?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I like realize that we're there.
Yeah.
We are in that time period where you go on a date and that is something you need to discuss at the beginning.
And you know what's crazy is that never changes. Like I turned 50 and now I have to remember I'm 50. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, how am I, wait, and like I went to the gym and, the gym is one of my favorite spots. I feel comfortable in the gym. There's confidence in the gym, even though I'm a little heavier, obviously, than I want to be, but I know how to use machines. I know how to work out. I worked out a lot in my life, right? And I was pushing myself, and then I had to kind of step back, and I was like, man, I'm wiped out. And then and I was like, dude, you're 50. Like you should be wiped out a little bit, right? Like you can't work out like you did when you were 25, you're twice that. So that feeling of like, holy shit, I'm in that time frame. You
Yeah.
hit that all the time throughout your life. And it's crazy because you constantly have to remind yourself of it, right? Like, I'm not old enough to do that. No, you are, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm too young for that. No, you're probably not, right? Like
Probably not.
it all is hit. But you're right, man. I think and you probably heard me even say, thank God I didn't have the technology you guys had when I was your age, because I don't know if I'd be sitting here, to be honest with you. I did some stuff that was probably not allowed. But if
Oh, I've
somebody,
I've I've done some dares, hang out with coworkers or friends, and I've looked and found a phone and been like, delete that.
yeah, exactly.
Do not. And they're like, I'm not gonna I don't care. My parents will sense that it's somewhere and documented. Delete it.
Yeah,
But that's another thing with age is like I don't feel old. Like I feel really young and still like ready for the world. But there are parts where I do feel old, like with Ryan. So Ryan is my brother. He's 16 turning 17. And I never feel old until I'm like talking with him and he'll make a reference to whatever's trending in high school right now. And I'll sit there and I'll go, I don't get it.
yeah,
And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then I'll ask him, I'll be like, oh, I don't get that reference. Like, what is that? And he'll just like point and laugh at me instead. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
thanks. That was helpful.
Wait till you have your own family, and that gap is not 4 years; it's 29 years. Like it's crazy. Like that's the rest of your life, just trying to
Right.
figure all that out.
And that's another thing that I feel like a lot of people look over is that it's your parents' first time too. Like everybody's in this life for the first time. And so now there are certain behaviors that are completely inexcusable, right? Abusing your kid, neglecting them, being emotionally abusive, alcoholism, all those there's certain behaviors that are inexcusable with how you treat your children. But have a little mercy if it's not to the extreme. They're trying to figure it out. Just cuz
Right.
you're 16 years old as a, just cuz you're 16 doesn't mean your parents have it all figured out. They just still don't know what comes at 17 for you. So
Yeah.
it's it's hard. And it's hard being a kid too. You don't want to disappoint your parents, but you also want to do what you want. It's
Yeah. Well, and it's cool. Like these conversations, and we're gonna have these every week. Is learning, right? Like, and listen, I know you think your generation's great, but Gen X is by far the greatest generation after the Great Generation or whatever they're called.
sure.
But we've had to adapt. We've had
My
to
bad.
adapt crazily, way more than I think previous generations have, because the internet was invented in what, 93? I think was when the internet, I was 18.
I think it became a household, product in
Later
the
in the
90s.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
later in the 90s, right? So like I had
I
tons
don't
of
know. My knowledge of when technology came into the household is based on Full House because DJ got a computer and like seven or in like season 7. So I don't
so we've had to adapt, I think, more than like our parents did, right? Because there wasn't you know, my parents grew up with one TV, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so did I for the first part of my life. We had one TV and then we got two and it was like, oh my God, and we had two phones, and my dad was an IT, your pop-up was an IT guy, and he always had the cutting edge stuff. So like we had an Apple computer and I used to have friends come over to use it to write papers for their school, right? But we still had the encyclopedias on the desk to look up stuff as we're typing, right? We had typing class in high school, for God's sakes. And I don't even know if they manufacture typewriters anymore. Maybe they do.
I love typewriters.
But we've had to adapt to try and figure out how to maneuver and parent in an age where nobody's had to parent like this before, ever. My parents certainly didn't have to, right?
Right.
So that's where you're right when you say everybody's going through this hopefully the best they can. But the patience has to be there, And so I think in our conversations, we're going to navigate through a ton of stuff because we want this to be as natural as possible.
Yeah.
And we're going to navigate stuff and, you might bring something up. I'm like, oh man, that was one of those parenting fails. Like I've thought about that years and years later going, damn it, why did I do that? But yeah, we're human. And
we are.
You guys are human beings and you're trying to figure it out. And the difference is we can't help you guys figure out the same way that maybe my parents could help me, right? Because bullying when I was a kid was normal. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It was normal. I was bullied.
I think it depends. I think it builds character, but also it's
it
not good at the same time.
Yeah, I think some of it does, right? But I was bullied like crazy, right? Red hair, freckles, blind.
Yeah, I know nothing about that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Last night at work, everyone was making like funny nicknames about each other. You want to know what I got?
What?
I've gotten this one before. Lauren Gay.
Oh, yeah.
You know how many times I've gotten that in my life? They said it right to my face and I flashed back to middle school and I went, but I was just like, oh, clever. I've never heard that one before.
Right. You know what's cool about you sharing that though is that's a commonality regardless of generations, right?
Yeah.
Like Scott Gay. I mean, I was called gay all the time, right?
Yep.
And then what people will learn, I'm legally blind in my right eye. Like I'm a 400 without my contact in, and I'm 20/60 maybe with it.
I don't know what that means anyway.
Well, 20/20 is normal. The higher you go on the 20 scale, the worse your eyesight is, right?
Oh, your eyesight is shit.
My right eye. My left eye is like freaking a machine, right? But so when I was in first grade, I had to wear a patch over my good eye, my left eye, so that my right eye got stronger, right? And I was wearing a glass contact lens in the 1979, 1980. So imagine you have a kid. Don't imagine it anytime soon. But
no,
you take them to the doctor and they're like, their eyesight's bad. Here's a piece of glass. Put it in your 5-year-old's eye and then put a patch on his good eye and send him off to school. He'll be fine. Not to
as
mention,
a short little redhead.
Exactly. The only one, right? There's always only one redheaded kid with freckles in every class, right? Man, I got bullied like crazy. But the great thing, the difference, getting back to the point, is bullying really stopped once you got home, right? And you guys have had to navigate it differently, right? And so that's something your mom and I never had to experience. So
right. So to go back to you feel like your generation has had to adapt more. It's funny you say that because I think every generation will say that. I think the millennials would say that because they kind of had the same thing where they were born at the beginning of the age of technology to now where they're almost a little out of date with everything. And then, 9/11 happened when the millennials like peak years of their life and all this different stuff. And then my generation, we were born right at the beginning of the age of technology too. But we were born into a war because, our troops were over in the Middle East following 9/11 and pop culture was shifting and people were moving from this way to that way. And then technology really took off. I've said to people, I think my elementary, middle school years were the best years of my life, only because of the lack of technology. Like, and I'm serious because, when I was a kid, Hayden and I would play Just Dance for a few hours, and then guess what we would do? Go outside. And we've had to adapt to the fact that people don't want to do that anymore. Like,
Right.
they just want to, oh, we don't have to meet up for coffee. I'll just call you. But why? Meet me for coffee, damn it. Like, I want to meet and talk face to face.
Right.
And, with COVID, I mean, we could talk forever about how that affected my generation.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't, I had one normal year of high school, which was senior year. And even that was still not the most normal.
Right.
Like, everyone, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, which is the new generation, school will never be the same. Human interactions will never be the same, and all because of COVID. And I've watched it. I've watched it happen, how everyone's different. So navigating nowadays with all the pronouns and the they thems and technology, and everyone's so touchy feely, that's really hard as someone, especially me with a very strong personality, where I'm just like, okay, man, take the joke. Like, it was funny.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think every generation will kind of argue that they've had it the hardest, but I think that's also another thing that kind of just makes us human is it's all hard.
Well, you hit a lot of points there, so we'll have to revisit some of those topics for sure. But strictly from the parenting aspect was the angle I was looking at. But then, even then, like our generation, there's been so much that's happened, right? Like, and you're right. Listen, my grandfather was born in 1907. He died in 1997. I can't even imagine what that guy saw in his life.
Now
right?
that's a lifetime.
Right. But like we didn't have video games. There was no cable TV when we were.
You had the Atari,
started.
though.
We had Atari 2600. Thing was awesome.
The Game Boy.
The Game Boy came out when I was like in middle school, though. That was way later. But like cell phones and I mean, Jesus. When I started high school in the 80s when it was what everybody thinks of 80s culture like, right? Big hair, poppy music, all that kind of stuff. And when I
was meant to be a kid in the 80s.
And when I graduated in the early 90s, grunge had taken over. So literally in my 4 years of high school, you went from the 80s fashion to flannels and jeans and flat hair as opposed to high hair and mullets to shaved heads and like it's wild, and we'll talk all about this stuff as we go. We'll talk about your life, my life, but even moving to where we live now, your mom and I bought our first cell phones in 2007.
Yeah.
When we moved, like I had a Nextel for work, but we literally had bought new phones because we were driving cross country and we couldn't use them until after 7:00 at night because otherwise it was too expensive. So we got
you guys had the walkie-talkies.
We had walkie-talkies in between the cars as we drove cross country. Like that's crazy. Like think
You
about
know
that.
what's funny? Yesterday at work, my manager. So I work at a restaurant. I'm a host server. I'm really utility in a restaurant as long as it's front of house. But my manager came up and we were on a little bit of a wait. I was serving, but I didn't have a lot going on. So we were on a tiny bit of a wait. And he comes up and he goes, "Oh, you should page them and tell them that their table's ready." Those two hosts looked at him like he spoke Spanish. And he looked back and he goes, "What?" And the one girl, she's new and I haven't gotten a chance to like know her yet, so I don't know her name, but she looks at me and she goes, What do you mean page them?" And Drew looked at me and he goes, "Please tell me you know what I'm saying." And I was like, "I do, Drew, but to be fair, nobody uses a pager anymore." Like that's not a thing.
Right.
Like she is looking at you crazy because you're speaking crazy to her. The only reason I even know what a pager is because my parents have told me what it is. Like that 98% of my generation is going to look at you insane if you go, "Oh, have you seen my pager?"
Yeah.
What?
They don't even know what that is. Unless they see it on Friends or something, like a Friends rerun.
That's true.
Right? That's crazy. Well, we've already gone all around, right? But I think
Yeah.
we should probably get back to who we are and why we hope people will appreciate listening. So, like I said, my name's Scott. I'm 50. I was actually born in New Jersey, but if you ask me when I meet you, I say I was born and raised in San Diego. And that's because my dad, like I said, was an IT guy, and I was born in the 70s. And the only places you could get a job working on computers in the 70s was California. So we relocated. I think I was 7 or 8 months old when we relocated and lived in Southern California for a little while. And then we settled in San Diego. And so I was pretty much born and raised in San Diego. And so I have an older sister. My dad passed in 2019. My mom's still alive. Unbelievably, she'll be the first to tell you. Um, and I met your mother when I was 25. Got married when I was 28. We're still married. She and I were actually talking about that today. This will be 23 years that we've been married, which is incredible. And for work, I guess I'm a business development manager for a logistics company, and that's a lot of words to just say that I help grow the business. That's pretty much all I do. It's a lot of work, but it's simple put. So, the thing about this podcast, like we said at the beginning, was you and I have always had a really good relationship, and I'll let everybody obviously will listen to you and who you are. But when we've talked about it a lot of times, you've always said I should do a podcast just because I have unique perspectives and I've had a lot of life experience. Let's just put it that way. And I've had other friends tell me I should do one, and they would listen to it. And then you, not to steal any of your thunder, but you were in theater, and so was I in high school. And you did a lot of media stuff in high school, which that people will learn about. And you're a strong person, but you're young. And so you and I just kind of evolved the conversation to be like, it would be so fun. It would be so fun. It would be such a good idea. And then all of a sudden we started doing the research, and we saw like one other podcast out there that was a dad and a daughter. And so we recognized that I think there's a lot of father-sons, and I think there's a lot of mothers and daughters, and I think there's a lot of siblings and a lot of best friends and a lot of former athletes and whatever, right? But there weren't a lot for, normal American family, daughter and dad. And I don't think a lot of dads and daughters at your age, and mine, that really talk in depth, right? And so we're hoping that that's where everybody sees the value in this. And so you guys will all learn way more about me. I'll tell you everything. I have nothing to hide. I may not use people's names though, because I don't want to get sued. But you'll hear about growing up in San Diego in the 80s, and my soccer passion and sports in general, and all the things that I did, bartending and working at the House of Blues in Hollywood, California in the 90s, and traveling the world, played soccer when I was younger than you are now.
Yeah, rub it in again. Go ahead.
And doing all those kinds of things. And so that's me. You'll learn a lot about me. And I hope to learn a lot more about my daughter, which is a weird thing to say, because I just said that we know each other pretty well, but you're your own person. You're an adult. And I know you and your mom talk like 97 times a day, but you and I don't get a chance to talk as much. So anyway, for everybody listening or watching or however this thing's going to work, I'm leaving all that to you, Lauren. That's me, and that's what we're hoping to do. So I'll shut up now, and Lauren, you can go from there.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Lauren. I'm 20. I'm a Libra, in case anybody out there is into astrological signs, I feel like that does explain a lot about me. And my dad's an Aries, in case anybody wants to know. I was born in Long Beach, California. I'm my parents' only Cali baby, and we moved to Fort Mill, South Carolina, when I was 2, 3. I
Turned 3 the day we
turned
moved into the
3.
first house.
Yes. So I always get that age mixed up, but yes. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm a Southern girl. You'll hear me twang just a little bit on certain words, and if I get passionate about a topic, I'm gonna twang.
I'm
My
gonna
dad
put
can
you on
attest to
mute.
that. Okay, thanks, Dad. I Some things to know about me is, yes, I'm very passionate, but I'm very stubborn at the same time. I like things my way or the highway, but I'm not unapproachable. Um, I love talking to people just as much as I like to sit in my room. I did theater for a little bit, have always liked to sing, although no one will ever hear me sing. I
That's not
played
true.
I played soccer a little bit when I was a kid. Basketball, I was god awful at it, and I played softball for a majority of my life. Um, some things I like to do in my free time. I'm a huge reader writer. I love it. I read all the time. I write all the time. I've been like that since I was a kid. Like the full 9 yards, the Harry Potter nerd, the Twilight nerd, I'm all of it. I love watching movies. I love listening to music more than anything. I think I love listening to music. Which that will be a recurring topic with my dad and I for sure, because if there's anything that my dad and I have in common at the end of the day, it's music. So,
Yes.
I always struggle talking about myself because I'm not sure what people want to know. I have one younger brother. He's one of my best friends in the whole world, even though he's at that age where he thinks I'm too cool or he's too cool for me. But he'll figure it out soon enough. And what else do you think I should tell them about myself?
Well, you just sang a little bit. Huh?
That doesn't count.
You were right on key.
Was I?
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I think. I think that's a good intro, right? Like we have stories upon stories, right? Like so when you say
Yes.
softball, we have stories. Moving from California to here, tons of stories. Holy shnikes.
Did you just
Music.
censor yourself?
I might have, but
You said holy shnikes, like you
Right.
hesitated.
right. Well, at least that's cool because Tommy Boy is cool. So there's my age again.
All right.
Because it's one of the best movies ever. But yeah, we have stories upon stories that we can talk about. And I think people get to know us a little bit more each time. That's the hope, right?
The last thing I want to say, for me, because you kind of went into your own personal reason for the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So like my dad stated earlier, I did a lot of media work in high school. I was in my news program and I put together story segments, hosted the news, did all kinds of fun stuff. So my main thing I've told my parents, I think since about my sophomore year in high school, I originally wanted to be a teacher. And when they asked me why, because I wouldn't get paid really anything, I told them it's because I wanted to help people. And that's something that I think I've wanted my whole life, is to help people, whether it's through acting, giving inspiration to people, or through singing, inspiring people that way, or having a song for people to relate to, through my writing where people can read it and go, oh, I see myself in that character. Through all the avenues in my life that I've really seen myself pursuing, it's at the end of the day, my whole point is that I love to help people. And so a year ago, when my dad and I were just softballing this idea around, that was my main point, was I wanted to help people. And so if only 3 people listen to this podcast a week, but it strengthens their bond with their dad, their mom, their siblings, anybody, then I consider it accomplished, because all I've wanted to do is help people. I have the personality to do so. And the last thing I needed to do was just put myself out there. And my dad was right there with me. So if I can just help one person a week on some small topic to understand their parents' perspective, or have a parent understand their daughter's perspective on sex, drugs, alcohol, all of it, then I will consider it accomplished, because that's the main point at the end of the day is we want to help people, and we want people to understand that life is hard, relationships, platonic or romantic, are hard, but it's at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all going to be okay.
Yeah, no, that's good. You're right. I mean, and a parent child relationship is hard too, right? So, especially as you get older, and I remember being your age and I had to move back home for a little bit, and that's probably the worst relationship time I ever had with my parents, right? Because you're young and you're an adult and you're trying to figure it out, and then you still have parents that want to be a parent, because once a parent, you're always a parent. You never stop, right? So
There are
helping
moments
people.
when I move home or when I visit home a little bit where I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
they're
Oh, I
breathing
know.
down my neck.
Oh, I know. I can see it all over your face, right? So,
I don't know what you're talking about. My face never gives me away, ever. I have no idea what you mean.
but yeah, like helping people, and just so everybody knows, when she said she wanted to be a teacher, we didn't discourage her from it because of pay, right? The one thing that her mom and I always believed in is helping our kids realize that find what your passion is and expose yourself to as many experiences as possible, right? So, Lauren, you talked about music, right? So I grew up a metalhead. I mean, total metalhead. My first tape that I ever bought, I was 8 years old. I bought Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil in 1983.
And your mom threw it away.
And my mom took them away. Because, in the 80s, it was all devil worship, fears on Good Morning America and Today Show and all that crap. So my mom took them away. But anyway, I grew up a metalhead. And then as I got older, I got exposed to more and more and more. And then your mom grew up in Long Beach, California, and that was a lot more of the 80s music that I didn't like. I wouldn't say R&B and hip hop and all that, because that wasn't really a huge thing, but the Depeche Modes and the poppy stuff, right?
I love Depeche Mode so much.
That my sister used to listen to, and we'd have stereo wars in between the walls because we shared a wall between our two rooms, and then I got exposed to more, and so I use this as an example because your mom and I, that was a goal for us, is to expose you guys to every type of music, right? I think I have 1,000 CDs over in that cabinet, right? And we've gone to every type of show with you guys, right? Your first one was Dave Matthews when you were 2. You were at Metallica when you were 4. You've gone to Tears for Fears, and Godsmack.
I went to Thomas Rhett too in high school with my friends.
Right, like we listened to everything. And
yeah, for our family, when people always ask like, "Oh, what's your family's like favorite artist?" or like, I get that a lot. Like when I say I love music, I'm like, it's more of, for me and my family, ask us a genre and we'll tell you our top 3 from there. Exactly. Like that's how we operate.
Exactly. But the same thing went through your life, right? Like we wanted to, because I didn't think I'd ever have a real job, right? And we'll go through that in another episode. But I never did what I really loved to do. I just kind of floated and, hey, that pays more. Okay, I'll go do that, right? And after a while, you lose the money. You lose it loses its fun and it loses its appeal at some point. And then you have to wake up every day and figure out, how am I going to do this today if you don't love what you're doing, right? And so that's the thing that we really have tried to instill in you and your brother is follow your passion and make sure you want to do it and know that you can do multiple things. So when we asked about the teacher, it was really why, right? Your aunt's a teacher. We hear the stories. It's hard. It is a hard job. It's underappreciated in many aspects.
Absolutely.
And so if you're going to take on that responsibility as a career, you need to make sure that's really what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of teachers that start teaching and after a few years they go do something else because it wasn't really what they wanted to do, right? So anyway, just another little insight into us, and we're not perfect. We're far from it. People either love us or they really don't like us. There's not a lot of gray area with us.
There's really not with us.
There really isn't. And I've said this before. My last name's Gray, but there's nothing gray about me.
Nope. We're pretty black and white.
We're pretty black and white, and we're hard-headed and we're opinionated, but we're not standoffish. And that's the thing. Whether it's personalities or physical confrontations, we don't instigate them, but we'll defend if we have to, right? And we don't back down just because that's what everybody says, right? Mm-hmm. So hopefully everybody will learn a lot about us, a lot about our relationship, how we navigate it together, learn from us, to your point, and help people with it, but then also get a unique perspective between a dad and a daughter about everything, whether it's sports, politics, weather, cars, music, fashion. I mean, you
try to talk to me about cars, I'm going to fall asleep. I don't get it.
I'm going to learn so much about you. I'm a little scared. I'll be honest with you. Like I don't know if some of the topics that we'll talk about, I may have to take deep breaths on.
Just take a shot.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just every time I say something that makes you want to throw up, just take a shot.
But anyway, hopefully that sums up what we want to do, and we'll go from there. I think now we've been talking long enough about who we are and the dynamic and what we want to accomplish. Why don't you tell everybody where we're going to see this? Like, I have no idea. This is all you. So how are we going to do it? I know we have a Facebook page because I created it. It's Bridge the Gap Pod, POD. That's the Facebook one. And then you did all the others. So
one last thing I do want to mention before we do the whole social stuff.
Yeah.
With my dad and I being opinionated people, sometimes we overstep boundaries. Sometimes we may have a outlook on a situation that may get us borderline canceled, but at the end of the day, like we said, it's the whole point of this podcast is we are putting ourselves out there to help people. So you know what? If there's a topic we're talking about and we use the wrong, I don't know, pronunciation or call someone the wrong pronoun or something, it's not intentional. We are that's just is what it is. We're trying. Right. And we're not trying to be offensive, but we aren't going to shy away from our opinions either.
Yeah.
That's of the last thing I wanted to mention about us.
No, that's good. That's good. Cause you're right. Like, I was thinking about this before we got on. I'm like, oh man, I'm about to open up myself to a lot of criticism, right? Cause people are going to comment that I'm got a huge forehead, or why am I so red? I was in the pool today. That's why my face is so red.
You're always naturally a little red though.
I know I am. And we're not going to say all the right things. And we may be controversial on some things because it's not popular. And we're totally okay with that. Like, we're not going to try and fake it, right? Mm-mm. And I think that's going to come across the more and more you listen to us, is that we're not going to fake it to appeal to what we think people want to hear. We're going to say how it is, right? I mean,
yep.
And if people don't want to listen, that's the beauty of the American dream, is you don't have to. You can just skip it and come back next week if you don't like the topic we're talking about.
And remember that the people behind the microphones are people.
Right.
So going back to that bullying, words do affect people. So just remember, even if you don't agree, like my dad said, just go away.
Right.
Like, you don't have to like it. It's okay. That's like Dad said, beauty of the American dream. You can just free will. You can leave.
Yeah,
so
100%.
The people behind the microphones are still people. Just because you don't agree with us doesn't mean you have to body shame and be absolutely disrespectful about it.
Right. No, that's good. That's a good way to wrap up this before we get into the socials, and hopefully the realism of everything comes across, and that's what attracts people to listen. And you said if 3 people listen a week, we'll be happy. You're right. I hope it's more, because I think that we relate to a lot of people in this country. I think we're more normal than what we think we are. It's just people are too afraid to put themselves out there. And so hopefully that's what attracts people to listen to us. And hopefully the natural, candid way that we communicate keeps you here. And listen, like Lauren said, we're going to say stuff that I know you won't agree with me on. I can promise you that. And so that's good, right? And you said it already, Lauren. People forgot how to have discussions, and people forgot how to have opinions without all those stupid buzzwords that people use about being threatened and, misnaming, all that sensitive ponytail dumb shit. We're going to hit it.
All right, it's the first episode. Don't scare everybody away.
I know, that's true. We're going to hit it, but hopefully the genuineness of it. And listen, like you said, Lauren, we want to help people, but we also want to learn. So if we have a viewpoint that is different and we can learn something from someone else that's opposite or provides a different perspective, then man, how much better are we going to be as human beings and people? And that's exciting. So anyway, this is our first one. We introduced ourselves. We've already even talked a little bit about certain things. We kind of set the table to know that we're going to be pretty candid and honest and maybe controversial in some topics. Maybe pretty vanilla in other topics that we thought we might be controversial in, right?
That's true.
We're going to learn about each other. We're going to help other people. We hope we bridge the gap with many people, whether it's 2 friends, siblings, parents and children. We just hope that people find the value, and we're going to bring it every week. So with that, I'll turn it back to you. You can find us on Facebook, like I said, Bridge the Gap Pod, P-O-D. We'll probably be changing that to match the Instagram handle, which Lauren will give you here in a second. But stay tuned. A lot more to come.
Yes. So we're going to be on YouTube as Bridge the Gap Podcast. We're working on Spotify. It's been a little more difficult than I was expecting, and I've been pretty busy with work and getting ready to move, which that'll also be a topic for another time. But we're going to get those soon, and when we do, we will update our socials that we already and currently have. So we're on Instagram as _Bridge the Gap with 2 P's because 1 P was already taken. So I had to do what I had to do. And then for TikTok, where we'll post little clips and stuff and have links to our full episodes, it's going to be bridgethegap.pod. So I will also post some clips of this on my main Instagram. So if anybody's coming from my main Instagram, I'll have all that stuff linked, and you'll be able to find us wherever you choose to watch or listen to your favorite podcasts. Right. Because we will be a favorite, and if we're not, I will riot and burn everybody's house down.
There you go. See? I told you. How often are we going to do these, Lauren? I think people want to know.
Ideally, we'll record once a week and post once a week. Sometimes life gets in the way, and the schedule may be a little wonky, but for now, I think recording once a week and then posting over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday range. The finer stuff we'll get into once I have a more set schedule. Like I said, I'm moving soon, so it's going to be a little hectic for a little bit, but we just wanted to get this out there to start, and we'll update you once we've got a good, solid schedule of recording, posting.
Yes. Yeah, we got to work that out because I travel and work and have all sorts of stuff, and so do you. Sunday evenings are probably not the best time to do these because it's the end of the weekend. And usually most people are frustrated that the weekend's over. So I'm trying to do it during the time that we're upbeat and ready to go and happy. So we still got to figure that out. But I think the biggest thing to know is that you know where to find us, and you can look for one at least once a week, and we'll get that narrowed down and hammered home after the first couple. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, 100%. I think probably by August we'll have a good idea of everything because that's when I'll be gone.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
after
Cool.
that, we'll have a good solid schedule. But if anybody listens to this or watches it, thank you for tuning in. This was just the introduction. Get to know us a little bit. Decide if you want to stick around or if you think we're lunatics and don't. That's okay. But keep an eye out for the next episode.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to meeting a ton of you over the next several weeks, months, hopefully longer than that. And thank you, kid. Oh, I call her kid. You guys will learn that. Thanks, kid. Love ya.
Love you.
Talk to you later.
Alrighty.